Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar featuring Taj Singh, CEO, and Adam Cegelski, President of First Nordic Metals. They're going to discuss the work that they're doing in northern Sweden. My name is Ron Stewart. I'm a research analyst here at Red Cloud, and I'm delighted to be your host this afternoon for this presentation. Now, during today's presentation, Taj and Adam will provide an overview and outlook of what the progress that they're making at their flagship Gold Mine Belt project in Sweden. If you wish to ask a question, simply type it into the chat box on the side of the screen, and we'll get to as many of them as we can at the end of the presentation. Now, during today's webinar, Taj and Adam will make some forward-looking statements which we direct you to their website presentation, slide 2, to read the cautionary statement regarding the forward-looking statements. It's on their investor presentation. You can find it on their website at www.firstnordicmetals.com. As far as Red Cloud Securities is concerned, I'd like to point out that this presentation is for information purposes only and not a solicitation to buy or sell securities. We note that the call does not consider particular situation or needs of our listeners. Participants should rely on their own research and seek out their own professional counsel before making an investment decision. And finally, please visit our website, redcloud.com, for our disclosures on First Nordic Metals. So I'm going to pass it over to the guys, and I'll be back to you to ask some questions at the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Ron. Thanks for having us, and thank you all for joining us for this corporate presentation on First Nordic Metals, and subsequently followed by Q&A. We're presenting here on the same screen for ease of technology and simplicity. So I'll pass it off to Adam, who's the president of First Nordic Metals, and I'm Taj Singh, the CEO. Pass it off, and then we'll be coming into and out of the presentation at various times. Adam?
Yeah, thanks everybody. And again, we are on the road currently and had to do this on one computer, so thank you for the patience there. Again, we will be making some cautionary forward-looking statements. First Nordic Metals, we completed a merger between two companies about just over a year ago. Goldline Resources and Barsele Minerals created a natural company that was the combination of two major project areas in northern Sweden. You can see here we call this the Nordic advantage. The reason we really got into Sweden in Scandinavia originally was obviously its untapped potential. This is one of the final frontiers in greenstone belts in the world in tier 1 jurisdictions, and Sweden only opened up to foreign investment in the mid-90s. So you really had no other mining companies aside from state-owned companies like Boliden Mining executing on their local projects. They have a long history of mining. Gold mining goes back, and gold discoveries go back over 1,000 years in Sweden. So it was a very unique opportunity to get first mover advantage, get into this region, grab these incredibly large and undeveloped exploration projects, and ultimately make discoveries that we think we're going to be able to sort of build a very significant company around. So we've got incredible security in Sweden. We've got an incredible government in place that's actively permitting mines today. 3 new mines have been permitted in the last 12 months. We pay no mineral tax on operations. You pay a very standard, reasonable 20% corporate tax. And again, you don't have fear of losing your projects. This is a tier 1 jurisdiction, and a lot has changed in Europe in the last few years. We've really moved to critical minerals independence. Sweden is endowed with some of the most incredible geological mining opportunities in Europe, and it's the number 1 and number 2, Sweden and Finland, producers of metals in all of Europe currently. So obviously very excited to be in this jurisdiction. Makes it a lot easier to introduce the story to investors that are sensitive to jurisdictional risk. When you look at where we are, we often refer to this as, the accessibility is like going for a picnic in northern Sweden. You land in Stockholm, you switch flights, you take a 1-hour flight north, and you rent a car, and you could be within 50 meters of one of our discovery holes. within 45-minute drive. So incredibly accessible, highways running through the property, hydroelectric power here, in all over northern Sweden and northern Finland. So incredibly low energy costs. It's a mining jurisdiction with a long history of mining and a lot of active and currently and past producing mines. If you look, within the middle of the belt, you see two main belts. You see the Gold Line belt goes north and south, and you see this east-west belt called the Skellefteå belt. Both of these belts are well known, in geological terms. The Skellefteå belt has 25 to 30 active or past producing mines on it. And on this Gold Line belt, you have a very unique situation. You have almost 100 kilometers of first order strike. You've got 100,000 plus hectares of mineral concessions, all contiguous. Essentially 100% of the land is controlled by First Nordic Metals. You've got three main project areas covering 100 kilometers. You've got 40-kilometer project here in the north called the Storjukten project. You have the Barsele minerals project here in the middle of the belt, right here. Right here, sorry, I'm going to do that. And you've also got this 40-kilometer property here to the south called the Påbacken project. Right on the southern end of our project is an active mine called the Svartaliden mill and deposit. These are, this represents 100 kilometers of strike that we own. The Barsele project is our flagship deposit, joint ventured with Agnico Eagle. 2.4 million ounce gold deposit, second largest undeveloped gold deposit in all of Europe, and the largest gold deposit currently undeveloped gold deposit in Sweden. You see here the Fäbodtjärn deposit here, which was recently permitted, and they are using this wonderful infrastructure to truck down to the Svartaliden deposit. So we've got a very active situation here. We control a very unique large land package, and we have one of the most exciting new stories, I think, in all of Europe. If you look at what we have here on the top slide, it just shows you, a beautiful comparison to what can be here and what we're imagining. Obviously, you have this, well-known Barsele deposit where Agnico has spent, tens and tens of millions of dollars on developing this resource and understanding the project. And east and west of it, or sort of north-south, you have almost 100 kilometers combined. Now let's compare that to the Abitibi in Quebec. That would be below here, and that's another 100-kilometer trend. And that trend you see in Quebec, which has had investment going back maybe 75, 80 years before what happened here on this Gold Line belt. And you have 10 to 12 operating deposits, all feeding a central processing facility. You probably have over 100 million ounces of gold produced on that belt. And I would guess there's probably 20 or 30 very small fragmented exploration companies all selling their vision of how they could be the next new discovery on this operating mine. We have 100% of an entire greenstone belt. It puts us, I think, the only junior exploration development company in the world that has an entire greenstone belt. I think Agnico has one in the Abitibi, but that would be it. So very unique early mover advantage, and obviously a very well-structured merger that put these stories together. On the capital structure side, we have 271 million shares outstanding. Our current market cap is just over $100 million Canadian. We entered the year with over $10 million cash and initiated some pretty exciting exploration programs. We have an excellent distribution of shares. We have 40% of our shares held by institutions, gold-focused institutions. Ingalls and Snyder and Bob Gibson's group of investors were long-standing shareholders. We recently added Luxor Capital, and we have US Global and a few other funds representing almost half of the float. Insiders represent about 18% of the company, and Agnico Eagle became a shareholder in July 2024, and they currently hold 11% of the company. So really the only free trading float is essentially 30% of the market, and that is held by retail. You can also see a couple things here. We have new analyst coverage Three analysts have picked up our story in 2025. Haywood Securities, Ventum Capital, and Roth Financial all came out within the last 6 weeks. So there's some great research you can follow here. We also had an interesting milestone as a Swedish company with some of the people that we're adding to our story. We did list the company on the Swedish NASDAQ First North market. And that was really to promote more retail excitement with the local Swedish investor. You have a very active investment community in Sweden, and so we're very excited about adding shareholders every week from Sweden specifically that are looking for some sort of protection against what we're seeing globally. The gold trade is starting to get a lot more attention with gold having moved to $33, $34, $3,500 an ounce. We took 14 years and struggled to break through 2000. In the last 12 months, we've increased almost 50% on that gold price. So we have a new reality here. We have new investors that are entering the space, and we believe this company will be one of the most exciting stories in the junior development stage companies to evolve in 2025. As we move on, I'm going to hand over the slides here to Taj. He's going to take you through the Barsele project, the partnership with Agnico, as well as some of our very exciting exploration plans for 2025.
Yeah, so we'll start with a few slides here on the Barsele project, guys. Our most advanced project. This is a plan map of the project area. It's a very large land package, 25,000 hectares. I will really mainly be focusing on the main resource area, shown here in the red. And this is a JV between us and Agnico, 55% Agnico, 45% us. We are fully carried by Agnico and have been since Agnico came in 2015 on the project, and they've spent close to about $60 million. 165,000 meters plus of drilling, moving towards almost 500 holes. So a lot of data here, very well drilled property. And this kind of shape around the resource area represents the national designation of mining status. That was granted federally, and the project was declared strategic. This kind of just means, guys, when we move to the permitting process, we believe the permitting process will be fast-tracked. It's one of the few kind of claim areas that has been granted this status in Sweden. So that obviously is going to help us as we move forward. Looking at a long section of the deposit, this is the strike length right now, guys, is about 3.5 kilometers. Three main zones: the Avon zone, the Central zone, and the Shearson zone. Avon zone and Central zone start at surface and then move underground. So there's small starter pits, and then the operations move underground. The Shearson zone is solely underground. This plan map is really to show a couple of things. One is obviously in the dark and the black, we show some of the best intercepts in terms of grade and width to give you a flavor there. The gray intercepts kind of are showing the deepest intercepts, and what the most obvious area for growth in this deposit is at depth. The average resource depth is about 550 meters. We've actually hit a 925, and this same rock unit, the same lithology, continues to 2 kilometers of depth based on downhole geophysics. So we believe there's very real potential for significant expansion at depth, and that's the most obvious way this deposit will grow. Now, looking at a couple of the cross sections to give you some ideas on mining widths. And again, you can see these are very well drilled. These are two areas. One is the Central zone, one is the Shearson zone. Cross sections through those. The big thing that sticks out, guys, here is the width. You're talking about very, very wide, kind of 100 to 200 meter wide zones. The deposit is kind of set up as wide, kind of stacked lenses, stacked up almost like a bookshelf. That's how you think of it, and that's how it would be mined. And because of this, you're able to use that bulk underground mining to really bring your per ton costs down. The mining method contemplated here would be long hole open stoping, and there's a lot of analog operations and projects that have a similar kind of deposit geometry and mining method. And we'll actually look at them here on this slide. We show the resource table here. Again, the bulk of the economics is in the underground. You see below that a table that shows other operating mines that use the same kind of mining method and have the same kind of deposit geometry and orientation, this kind of subvertical, vertical orientation. of the zones, and you can see we stack up very well. Our underground grade varies around between 2.5 to 3 gram per ton, and again, these zones are up to 100 meters wide. For metallurgy, simple metallurgy, free milling sulfide ore. A significant component is recovered through gravity. So the kind of OPEX and CAPEX savings are quite high on savings on the back end of the flow sheet. That will obviously continue to be optimized as we continue to do studies. I talked about the resource upside at depth, and then one point I didn't talk about is the fact that this corridor is about 7 kilometers long. The current resources only occupy about 3.5 kilometers of that. So we think there's potential for satellite deposits along that corridor, and there's already some very interesting targets that could end up adding a good component of extra ounces to the resource down the road. And that's interesting to look at an operating mine in Sweden, and what does that look like, and especially in terms of cost, because the big thing that kind of really sets the region apart are the low costs. So this is the Björkdal mine that is about 200 kilometers kind of northeast of us, in the same county as we're in Västerbotten. It is used the same mining method that we would contemplate long hole open stoping. They're at about the 1,000-meter level. And you see here, they're right here showing their underground mining costs, processing costs, and G&A costs from their 2024 technical report. And if you know these costs and how they stack up versus other underground mines across the world, you can see they're very low. And what it kind of shows you is Barsele has actually a higher grade, substantially higher grade, and actually that's a bit of simpler metallurgy, less complex flow sheet, and actually has a higher recovery. And they're doing a great job at Björkdal and obviously making money at these gold prices. It's been operating for over 40 years, but really this is just to show you how cheap it is to operate in the Nordics. And kind of overall, you're looking at almost a 25-30% kind of lower underground mining cost per ton. And then the big thing also is the processing cost is very low here, mainly driven by the electricity cost being very low. 3.5 cents a kilowatt hour is probably some of the best I've seen in the world. And then this is an interesting slide. I've talked about the depth potential, but this shows you some analog deposits in the Abitibi. And again, at Barsele, we're at about 550, 600 meters. Hopefully, we're just scratching the surface. These greenstone belt deposits are known to, have very, very significant depth potential. Now I'm going to lead you through the second part of the story. We've got a development stage asset, well drilled, and we'll continue to move along that path. But we have some very, very interesting 100% owned properties, obviously around it on the gold line belt, around the Barsele project. So our first target, where we're currently doing diamond drilling, is the Ida target sitting on the Powbacken project claims. This is a 4-kilometer plus corridor sitting right along the regional fault, the main gold line fault, and a limited work has been done on here by the predecessor company, Gold Line. You'll see there's some pink numbers shown here. These are some very, very high levels from base of till drilling, and base of till drilling is a method used in the Nordics because most of the ground is actually covered with till. It allows you to really sample the bedrock, and it's a process as part of the process to get your targets ready for drilling. It's something you do to help define where to drill. And these have some very, very high bot drilling result numbers. And as well, quite a bit of geochemistry has been done, and actually several holes were already done prior to the drilling we're doing here. And actually the discovery hole was 22.5 meters of 2.4 gram per ton, which compares very favorably to what we saw at Barsele in terms of discovery hole. Very similar kind of grade width combination there. The plan here is an initial 5,000 meters has been planned, and it shows in the black holes here. We're really doing big aggressive step outs to test the corridor and see how long it goes. We already know 1.5 kilometers of it is mineralized. We want to see how far that goes out of the 4 kilometers, kind of identify how much of it is mineralized, and then we'll come back and tighten up and start really focusing on some areas. So for initial 5,000 meters is planned here. We plan to release some of the initial first batch of results within the coming weeks, and then move towards adding some more meters. The overall plan, high level, is to have about 10,000 meters drilled here this year. Moving north a little bit, still on the Powbacken set of claims, is targets 2 and 3, which are Harpsund and Brokohan. These were in the stage of doing base of till drilling right now. We plan to release those within the next week to two. Brokohan, we were working on doing some base of till drilling. There were some swampy conditions because of the unusually mild winter. So we're actually going to be doing most of the base of till drilling later in the summer at Brokohan. But Harpsund has base of till drilling done on it. We've done also quite a bit of gold assays and geochemistry from till sampling at Harpsund that will also come in that package, and Harpsund will now move to the diamond drilling stage. But this is a big target with very intense, kind of cohesive 5-kilometer geochem anomaly. We look to move this towards drill planning stage shortly, and then at least to be able to put about 5,000 meters, if not more, in at the Harpsund and Brokohan targets. So that's kind of our targets 2 and 3. And then target 4, we now move north of the Barsele project on the Storjuktan set of claims. This is the Nippes target, the most obvious target right now at Storjuktan. I'll be talking about it, but we actually believe there's several more targets at Storjuktan. But we just released results about a week ago at Nippes. Those were base of till drilling gold assays, and we had some very high numbers as well. Again, a number of about 0.1 ppm is considered very high from base of till drilling. We had many hits above 1 ppm, and there was, I think, the highest hit here was 2.7 ppm. So some very, very highly anomalous gold values from the base of till drilling. So the target here is about 5 kilometers. It's kind of composed of 3 different trends we've allowed. We've been able to now line this up with our structural understanding of this area. And we're going to be, we've already released actually the plan for the first 5,000 meters in Nippes. So within the coming weeks, we'll mobilize drills and get Nippes ready for drilling through the summer as well. And new targets. So this was a bit of not a surprise, but it was great to see this. We've already got lots of targets, and there's even more coming. These are targets that were identified through a very, very extensive glacial till sampling program that was done last summer. We identified pathfinder elements to give us these kind of anomalies and their size and dimensions. Now we're moving them to the gold assay stage. We've now sent these samples off for getting gold assays, and we should be getting those back in the next week to 2, and we'll report these to the market. But they look very exciting in terms of what we're seeing in terms of anomalies, size, scale, and how it lines up also with structure. And so we'll be putting out some results on those. That would then move to the base of till drilling stage and then move those on to diamond drilling. So very, very busy year on the Gold Line belt. Overall, we're planning for 20 to 25,000 meters. And I think, listen, it's you don't see a lot of juniors with an entire belt and able to really do such a large exploration program on a belt that really hasn't been explored much and has a lot of potential. I'm going to pass it back to Adam. I'll give a little bio, but I will then pass it back to Adam to run through the rest of our team. But myself, I'm an engineer, bachelor's and master's in engineering, mining, and metallurgy. I've been in the space my entire career. I was previously founder, president, CEO of Discovery Silver, which we took it from IPO all the way up to a value of about 800 million in market cap over a few years, advancing the largest silver deposit in the world in northern Mexico. I was also part of the founding team, and I was lead independent director at GT Gold, which we were also right place, right time, able to transact and sell that to Newmont for $450 million, copper gold deposit in British Columbia. And then prior to that, I worked at the producer called Timmins Gold, which was acquired by Argonaut. I was there for about 6 years, and we put the San Francisco gold mine into production. I was also an analyst at Macquarie, a mining analyst covering about 20, 30 names in the silver and gold space. And then I spent the first 10 years of my career, the first decade, as an engineer working in capital projects at Inco and Vale, once Vale took over Inco at various mines all over the world. So, a lot of background, technical background, as well as financial, capital markets, but been across the spectrum of exploration to development to production. And I'll pass it off now to Adam to run you through the rest of the team and the board.
Thanks, Taj. So again, a few changes along the way in the last year and a half. My name's Adam Cegelski. I'm the president. I was founder of Gold Line Resources, and obviously got very excited by having this opportunity in Sweden. Been an entrepreneur in the mining space and technology space, my whole career. Recently we completed, maybe not recently, but we had a great success with Caden Resources, where I met some tremendous people and had some success building out a project as a founding director, which eventually sold to Agnico for just over $200 million. We were also part of the team that helped advance Keegan Resources, where over $450 million was raised to advance what is now Galiano Gold's operating mine in West Africa. Benjamin Gelbers, our head of exploration, master's in science of economic geology, very good colleague of ours. We've worked together for over a decade. And, he was in West Africa from discovery hole through to commercial production. So incredibly experienced in these greenstone belts, and spent some time at Barrick Gold before we recruited him to Goldline Resources. VP of Corp Dev is John Aaron. We worked together at Keegan Resources, and he was, an important part of the early launch of Goldline Resources. So again, adding a significant pedigree to the capital raising side, and having been through a gold cycle before, you really only get 3 or 4 of these opportunities in your entire career. So we're all incredibly excited and passionate about what we see in front of us. We launched Goldline Resources, in 2019, 2020, when we saw all this money being printed in the United States and with Biden administration. And here we are, gold's now 3,400, and the stocks have not even really responded yet. So all of us are quite experienced, and know what cycle we're going into and how important it is to advance these projects and raise capital at the right time. Recently appointed CFO is Rakesh Malhotra, over 30 years of experience, former VP Finance of Toronto-based private group of service companies, and just a great addition to our team. And on the board, we have a very, I think, established board. Besides Taj and myself, we have Toby Pierce as our chairman. He's currently CEO of Somerset Energy. He was former head of Tag Oil for about 10 years. And, we met when he was head of research at GMP in London. So again, one of the co-founders of Goldline Resources. Recently with our Swedish listing, we added Henrik Lundin, based out of Norway, Bachelor of Science in Petroleum Engineering, and obviously incredibly influential in the Scandinavian markets. So excited to welcome Henrik to the team here recently. He's also on the board of EMX Royalty, which is one of our partners and where this project initiated from. Very important board member and a great part of our team is Mark Legault. Spent 35 years working with Agnico, a retired engineer and geologist, but very close relationships with the team that built Agnico Eagle. And so as we negotiate as we advance one part of our business plan, which is working through the joint venture that we have with Agnico, Mark has proven to be an invaluable resource and a very trusted partner for us moving ahead. And we've also got greater, access to capital and funding through our partner and director, Jeff Couch. Jeff was former head of investment banking, Bank of Montreal for Europe, capital markets, former banker at Credit Suisse, highly experienced banker who resides in Europe and currently working with Orion in some of their projects, including Lydian Mining and, Alifer Mining. So great board of directors, complemented by a pretty active and aggressive team working through exploration, development, finance, marketing. I think we check the majority of boxes required in a junior mining company, junior development company these days. And with that, I will leave it off to you, Ron, to ask some difficult but inspiring questions.
Thank you, guys. Good job with the presentation. We've had a couple of questions come in. First of all, I wanted to ask you about the joint venture with Agnico Eagle. Have they provided you with a budget for 25 and they're giving you an indication of their intent going forward with the project?
Yeah, so Ron, it's a good question, and we've talked about it before. Agnico, for the past about 4 or 5 years at the Barsele project, has been doing, say, kind of circa 2,000 to 3,000 meters of drilling. Kind of regional, a little bit in the resource area, sometimes more regional. They've been doing kind of maintenance work on it, and before that, they were doing very, very active work. It was going to essentially be one of the next mines if you date it back to 2018 or 19. But they've gotten a lot bigger now. they're focused on Canada now. They bought a lot of actual operating mines and have focused a lot of their exploration around the actual operations. They've so really they're currently in the midst of planning what drilling is going to be happening at Barsele, which should start soon. So we're obviously involved in discussions with them on the planning on that, but it won't be really large here, Ron. And so what the plan is, and it's been press released before, is the original notion was to put Barsele inside the Barsele project into Barsele Minerals, which is one of the predecessor companies of First Nordic, and let them advance it. So we're talking right now in discussions with Agnico, as we have been as our partner, on seeing the path forward for the Barsele project, and we hope to be able to have something soon put together where we can see what the direction of the asset. But it is no doubt a robust asset that we really think should be moved forward.
Good luck with that, and we'll look forward to hearing from that. In respect of the region, the district, we're not everybody is quite as familiar with northern Sweden. What kind of competition for land use is there in your district, and are there any kind of restrictions around reindeer and migration of caribou or reindeer?
Yeah, so really in terms of kind of competition of land use, forestry is very big up here. I think the big thing to point out as well, you mentioned, is the infrastructure is unbelievable. There's major highways, power, like I said, readily available, railways. It's a dream in terms of infrastructure, but no competition that we really face in terms of land use. In terms of your question about the Sami people, who obviously have various migration paths that they use for their reindeer through the year, you work just very closely with them, as you would in other parts of the world, Ron, and we've had a great relationship with them. We're regularly in touch with them, and sometimes they have different paths they need to go at various weeks of the year, and so we're cognizant of that and work with them to be able to arrange our exploration based on that.
No, I appreciate that. Switching over to the exploration that you're doing, the area is covered by till. Is that all glacial till? And can you explain to me or explain to our listeners as to how Barsele was actually found and focused on originally, and why some of these other anomalies kind of were overlooked or hadn't been tested?
Yeah, it's one of the unique features in Scandinavia is that you've got this thin veneer, this glacial till veneer, and it's in some areas it's 2-3 meters, in other areas it's 20-25 meters, and so you don't have these outcrops. You can't just take sampling, and you hear a lot of these boulder hunters in this part of the world. A lot of Boliden's mines. One of our advisors, Benny Matheson, spent 45 years as exploration manager for Boliden, and they called him the boulder hunter. And these boulders they move through the land. It's an obvious way to just crack open the boulder and make discoveries. And I believe that was the original the original boulder is what led to the Barsele discovery. It led to an early exploration program, I believe, by the Geological Survey. Important to note here, as a first world country, as a well structured geological survey. We have a geological survey within, I think, half an hour of a gold line belt, maybe an hour, and you have over 4 million meters of core stored there, incredibly cataloged. You've got maps that have been hand drawn from, I don't know, 120 years ago, maybe more. So it's an incredible knowledge base. And EMX Royalty, when they first staked this ground, these claims were held by B2 Gold, by Orion, some by Barsele, and in 2016 these claims were dropped and they sit in a moratorium. So you've got all this amazing historical knowledge. You've got drill holes by the Geological Survey. You know you're working with very interesting data, and you're able to you spend a year looking for your concessions, and that's how the Gold Line Belt was originally secured. It took a year, but as the clock struck 12, EMX was there and staked the entire belt. So again, very well documented geological potential, boulders all over the place that have high grade mineralization there, geochemistry that leads you to understand what's happening at surface, base of till drilling that you puncture into that bedrock, and once you have grade, that's how most of these deposits are discovered. It's how Barsele, I think Barsele did what, 14 holes before Agnico came in and took over drilling. And so we're still, scratching the surface of these discoveries. And I just, you can't really imagine a 100-kilometer belt with only one, major gold deposit on that belt. So incredibly exciting opportunity for us to have the entire land package.
So and really, Ron, to add to that, Ron, is they're about 80 years behind what we see in Ontario and Quebec here. It didn't open up to foreign investment until the late 90s, this area, Sweden particularly, but Finland is in a similar fashion. So it's really the kind of the lack of outcrop, and then the fact that they're about 75, 80 years behind is really what's giving us the advantage now to get this done. And obviously with the advent of modern exploration, geophysics has been huge. This ability to sample so readily, so frequently using XRF a lot of times saves you on costs, increases speed of being able to get things done in terms of pathfinders first before you send off for gold assays. And then you have to understand the ice flow direction, because some of the till was obviously transported a few meters to even, several hundred kilometers. So you have to put that all into perspective. But I think that's what's really giving us the advantage, that this just hasn't been explored properly, as you pointed out. And there's a lot of these modern exploration techniques you can now apply, which are really going to help generate these really interesting targets.
And one of the things that you touched on is that the base of till is actually a bedrock sample. Have you done conventional till sampling and looked at the provenance of gold anomalies? Do you get actual transported gold on top of these anomalies, or no?
Yes, exactly. That's a great point, Ron. So we obviously, in terms of layers of information, geophysics is standard because these are structurally posted. But then you move on to till sampling. You just grid the whole potential area, that area of interest. But again, you might have some very interesting gold values, but it could have been transported. So you have to put that into context, and then have the next layer of information, a base of till drilling, check the bedrock. And a lot of times you'll see some higher gold values a few hundred meters away from really the main area would have been, because it moves in the till. So yeah, you definitely sample the till a lot, and then you move on to the bedrock. And then in certain situations, Ron, the terrain's a little weird and swampy, you just have to go to the diamond drills. You try to, obviously, as a cost-effective thing is to use the base of till drilling where you can, but eventually you go to the diamond drills and hit it that way.
And the gold deposits themselves are classic quartz carbonate type veins with pyrite, classic Archean style vein that we'd be used to from the Abitibi or something like that?
That's exactly it. Yeah, like a classic orogenic style gold deposit, quartz veins, quartz carbonate. Exactly, very similar to what we see in the Abitibi.
Right. So we're looking at things that we should all be quite familiar with.
Exactly. I think that's why there's a lot of analogies we try to make to that belt. Exactly.
No, that's fair enough. No, I appreciate that. That's really all the questions that have come in this afternoon. Listen, I really want to thank you for your time. The project looks very interesting to us. Certainly, you have a lot of room to move, a lot of opportunity to make the next couple discoveries here. So we're looking forward to seeing what kind of progress that you make throughout the rest of the year and whatnot. It's been a real pleasure to have you guys.
Thank you so much, Ron. Listen, we've got an asset we think is a world-class asset. It's already got a resource on it, multi-million ounce resource that needs a path forward, and we'll have one soon. And then with such a target-rich environment and large land package, I really think it puts us in a unique position. So we're excited, and it's really a great place to operate in. Any other comments from you, Adam, to close?
No, well said. Thank you, Ron. Thanks everybody for joining us. Stay tuned. Follow us on social. Lots of news to come. We'll be on the road and have our first analyst site visit early June. So look forward to sharing more information as the next months roll by.
Great. Thank you, guys. You guys have safe travels today.
Thank you.